Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video, doing the December 2018 month-ahead forecast for today's first video. So we'll have a look at CFSV2 and Beijing Climate Centre models to see what they're showing for Christmas. I can't show you ECMWF now because it's paid content at weather.us, so I won't be able to show you that in month-ahead forecast from now on. But I will show you the CFSV2 and the Beijing Climate Centre. You'll be able to see what those two models are forecasting for this month. We'll have a little review of November's forecast, although unfortunately we still haven't got the climate averages from UK Met yet. I think the weekend has held things up. They will be released very shortly, and I've been holding off through the morning waiting for those to turn up, but they've not been released yet for November, so I'm just going to have to show you the CET, try and make the best of it. So we'll go over the November forecast in a moment, and then at the very end of the video we'll have a sneak peek for January. Just to say that coming up later on this afternoon, we'll have your regular week to 10-day video update. And then tonight, we're going to have a blog update looking at the UK Met Office Contingency Planners Guidance. And that's just been released today. It's quite an interesting read. We'll talk about that on the blog this evening. So we're going to start off with November. So all we've got for November at the moment in terms of actual outcomes for November is the CET. So for November, central temperature comes out at 8.3, an anomaly very high of nearly 1.8 degrees, 2 degrees above average, set against 61 to 99. So obviously been a very mild month down in the southern part of the country. I don't think it's been that mild up in the north, but we're still waiting, as I say, for those climate averages to be updated at the UK Met. The weekend has held things up. I'm sure they'll get them updated either today or tomorrow. In fact, when you watch this video, it's possible that they will be updated by then. So for the central region, anyway, it has been a very mild November, the mildest November since 2015. And in terms of precipitation, I think there's been a bit of a west-east split, but again, waiting to confirm that at the UK Met. Now, the Gauss Weather's November forecast went for a slightly milder than average month. We thought temperatures would probably be around half a degree or so above average. We said the first half of the month was likely to be very mild, offset by a colder second half of the month. We didn't think that the cold weather in the second half of the month would be enough to totally wipe out the warm anomaly that we started off with. So we said it will probably come out a little bit milder than average. I think it did actually come out warmer than we expected, certainly for the central England region. I think it was a slightly warmer month than anticipated. Although we did say that cold weather, we was very unsure about the cold weather in the second half of the month. We said if that didn't come off, then it could actually be a very mild, and maybe even exceptionally mild November. That always looked a possibility. So we did get actually a colder second half to November. It's quite interesting. We did get the Scandinavian high and we got wind into the east, but it just so happened to be a very cloudy high pressure. And so although daytime temperatures were quite cold, nighttime temperatures were quite mild. There wasn't really all that much frost. I think where I am, we actually recorded more frost in September and October, frosty nights, than we did in November, which is quite unusual. And that's purely because although we got those easterly winds, they brought in a lot of cloud, and that held the temperature up by night. So broadly the forecast panned out as we expected, with the very mild first half, the colder second half. We got the Scandinavian high, but we thought was going to be a player, but all that happened is that it was a very cloudy high, and so it wasn't as cold as we thought it could be. And so we didn't reduce that temperature anomaly by quite as much from the first half of the month. Precipitation-wise, so again, we're waiting for confirmation on this. I think many eastern parts of the country had quite a dry November. I think it's been wetter in the north and west. The idea in the forecast was that the northwest would probably be wetter compared to south and east, so that side of things probably played out quite well. But again, we are waiting for confirmation on that at the UK Met. So that's November done. As I say, as soon as we get those averages for the UK in November at the UK Met, as soon as they're updated, we will bring them to you in a future video. Right, so this is what CFS-V2 is forecasting for December. It's going for very Atlantic-driven December with below-average heights out to the north and the northwest of the country, and the above-average heights are down to the south, and this leaves us bringing in this very mild west or southwesterly wind. So it looks like a rather Atlantic-driven and mild December in terms of the 700 millibar height anomaly being forecast by the CFS-V2. Today. That means that the temperature anomaly is coming out very mild for December. You see the whole of Europe covered by these red and orange colours. So obviously we're dragging up that long fetched southwesterly wind, bring the air up out of the tropical Atlantic. Cold and average temperature anomalies are pushed down into the southeast of Europe, around the Black Sea, down towards Greece. Those sort of areas are looking a little bit colder. But much of Europe is forecast to have a very mild December. That's particularly true as well for the UK. So CFS still going to town with this idea of a very Atlantic-driven and mild December. Consequently, it's a wet month as well. CFS-V2 is forecasting precipitation anomalies to be significantly above average, much of northern Europe. So again, we've got Scandinavia coming out wetter than average. We've got most of Central Europe coming out wetter than average. UK and Ireland is wetter than average. When we go down into the Med, it's drier than average down there. So this is a classic positive NAO setup. We would have low pressure around here, up in the northern Atlantic and out to our west, and then we'd have high pressure from the Azores pushing into Spain and Portugal, and then carrying on through the Med. And the squeeze of the ice bars between the two would leave us dragging up those long fetch southwesterly winds. So it's just a classic wet, windy but very mild December being forecast by the CFS-V2. The Asian Climate Centre for December is looking like that, and seemingly very much in line with one another now. So again, we've got the above average heights in terms of the 30-day anomaly going from the 1st to the 30th of December. We've got above average heights down to our south, below average heights are up to the northwest. Again, that leaves us pulling up those mild to very mild southwesterly winds in terms of the temperature anomaly. Therefore, the Asian Climate Centre is forecasting December to be much milder than average for the UK and for most parts of Europe as well. A very mild month is being predicted. Precipitation-wise, again, it looks quite an unsettled month. Above average rainfall for the UK and Ireland. Most parts of Northern Europe also getting above average rainfall in what is, again, a very classically unsettled, wet, windy, mild, westerly Atlantic-driven December. So we've got both of the models, the Asian Climate Centre and the CFS-V2, are in agreement for December to be a very mild and Atlantic-driven month. That's certainly where we're going to be starting off at. It's where we are right now and going through the first sort of week to 10 days of December. Definitely, you can say that's right. How long does that go on for? Well, the GaussOverviews.com winter forecast was released yesterday. We're going for a slightly colder than average winter by around half a degree below average, half a degree to 1 degree. That really gets going in January and February, but we are looking in December for early signs that the forecast is on track, and by that we're looking for at least one cold outbreak, either from the north or from the east, preferably from the east really in terms of the winter forecast, but if it happened from the north, it wouldn't be too bad either. The model output, the shorter range model output, is sort of flirting with an idea that around the second week of December, I will cover this in today's second video update, by the way, around the second week of December through to the middle of the month, we do get a Scandinavian high going. There's no sign of it whatsoever in these long-range charts, but my guess is that we will get at least one cold outbreak. So I'm going to go with the winter forecast as we only released it yesterday. So I think we'll get a cold outbreak. I would suspect it will happen probably sometime around the middle part of the month, maybe a little bit later than some of the models are showing this morning. So we're looking for a cold outbreak around the middle of the month, and maybe another one that perhaps fades out and it turns milder running up towards Christmas. So maybe sometime around or over Christmas. Again, no evidence is whatsoever, just my suspicion. Sometime around or after Christmas, maybe we have a second cold episode Again, probably not lasting all that long. But if we get these cold episodes, it would tell us that the winter forecast is on track. So for December, we are forecasting, again, I'm going to tie this in with the winter forecast, we're forecasting a slightly milder than average December, really because of how mild it is right now. It's exceptionally mild at the moment, especially across England and Wales. And so even if you do get these cold snaps, they're not going to be quite enough to offset the very mild start. So I think the forecast for December is going to come out at average to a little bit milder than average, maybe by around half a degree or so again. This is very similar to what we forecast for November, and we undercooked the temperatures quite a bit actually for November. It turned out to be quite a lot milder than expected, but let's say a little bit milder than average, somewhere around half a degree to 1 degree above average. In terms of precipitation, looks like we've required an unsettled month, so I'd say rainfall is likely to come out above average. Again, that would be particularly true for northern and western parts of the country, a little bit less so down in the south and the southeast. But I think overall it is a more unsettled month, especially at the moment and over the first week to 10 days. I mean, probably in another a period of very unsettled weather before Christmas, I think we will go to a slightly above average precipitation anomaly for December. So that's the GavsWeather.com December forecast. Slightly above average with temperature anomalies, slightly above average with rainfall anomalies, very unsettled month. Watch out for at least one potent cold snap sometime probably around the middle of the month. May have another one sometime around or just after Christmas. So that's what we're going to be watching out for in December. And of course, we will review this forecast when we come to the January forecast. Talking of January, just to leave you with a little sneak peek what CFS V2 is showing for January in terms of 700 millibar height anomaly. Well, if this is right, the GavsWeather.com winter forecast is going to be wrong, because we're forecasting January to be a rather colder month, a little bit colder than average. And the CFS V2 just wants to carry on with this very Atlantic-driven signal during January, with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, bringing in this really strong west or southwesterly wind. And if that came off, it would be pretty much curtains for a colder than average January, because that is Atlantic all the way. With that deep area of low pressure to the north and west of the country. We shall worry about that when we get to it. We've got enough to be worried about with December. So in the final analysis for December, we're pitching it very much where the winter forecast is, although the seasonal models, the CFS and Beige Climate Centre, just want us to have a very mild Atlantic-driven month. We're saying that, yes, it probably will be a little bit milder than average, but not as much as those long-range models think. Probably be a little bit wetter than average. Again, probably not as much as those long-range models think. Watch out for a cold outbreak at some point around the middle of the month, then maybe again towards the end of the month. Otherwise, in between, very mild and unsettled. Right, so that's your December forecast done and dusted. We'll be back later on this afternoon with a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.